Coming up, here's what the Philadelphia Eagles have to do to win their 9th straight game against Carolina and be victorious in Week 14. We're going through my keys to the game and matchups to watch. Key to the game number 1, I absolutely love the way that Jalen Hurts is playing right now. And some might say, Chase, he's a game manager. He's not doing that much. He's being carried right now by this offensive line, Saquon Barkley, and complementary weapons. Let me counter that by asking you this. Look at what Jalen Hurts has done during this 8-game winning streak. And is this good? 10 passing touchdowns, 10 rushing touchdowns. That's 20 combined touchdowns and 1 interception during this 8-game winning streak. He's the only player in the history of the NFL to do that. So, again, I ask you that question. Is that good? He's the only player to ever do that. Also, if you have Saquon Barkley and arguably the best offensive line, why would you not run it and cater to your strengths? Jalen Hurts, if he's being a game manager right now, that's fine because that's how this Eagles team is built, relying on talent, relying on your strengths. That's what good football teams do because they lean on their identity. But Chase, he doesn't have to throw. Eagles have arguably the best offensive line in football, and Saquon is the NFL Offensive Player of the Year. So smart football is when you lean on your pillars as a football team, and that's what Philadelphia is doing. And when Jalen Hurts has had to make throws, he's been able to do that, and he's making good decisions and not turning it over. Remember early in the year, Hurts is killing this team right now. He can't stop coughing it up. Fumbles left, interceptions right. He's wiped that away, and he's cleaned that up with this game, and it's been huge during this 8-game winning streak. And Jalen Hurts' dual threat ability makes him unique. There's 20 total touchdowns and 1 pick. That's excellent football right there, and he's a big reason why the Birds are rolling. And look, if you're going to talk about Josh Allen being an MVP candidate, let's stack up Hurts' numbers with Allen's numbers. Completion percentage goes to Hurts. Passing yards, slight edge to Allen. Rushing yards, edge to Hurts. Total touchdowns, both with 26. Passer rating, Hurts, 101.8, 100.3 for Josh Allen. Allen might have more attempts, but the point here being, Hurts deserves to be in that MVP consideration. There's also this. When talking about Carolina, their defensive front is not good. And they can't rush the quarterback or apply pressure on the quarterback. And so this Eagles offensive line and Hurts should be able to eat. Carolina has 21 sacks. It's 29th among 32 teams in the NFL. Key to the game number 2. Eagles defensive line against this Panthers offensive line. This Panthers offensive line last year, straight up abysmal. This year, they've been a lot better. That's evidenced by Chuba Hubbard having a good year and Bryce Young being more comfortable when he drops back to sling it. This Panthers offensive line, left to right, Ikem Ekwonu at left tackle, Damian Lewis at left guard, Cade Mays at center, Robert Hunt at right guard. He got a big deal in free agency this offseason, and then Taylor Moton, who's been very durable at right tackle. But Philadelphia in the trenches, they're going to provide a big test for that Carolina front. Josh Sweat now has 8 sacks. Jalen Carter has 4.5. He's been one of the highest graded defensive tackles in the game. Jordan Davis getting better and better over the last couple of weeks. Milton Williams having a career year and a contract year. And then Nolan Smith has 4.5 sacks in his last 8 games. He's really starting to come on. And I think that Philadelphia and Vic Fangio specifically could get exotic up front, twists, stunts, gains. Blur the vision line for Bryce Young. Try to confuse him. Dial up some blitzes from time to time. Involve Jalix Hunt, who had a good kind of extended debut last week. Send home to Kobe Dean and Zach Bond on some of those blitzes. Throw the kitchen sink at Bryce Young. The offensive line might be good, but his wide receiver talent is not good, and I think Philadelphia's front can overpower Carolina in this football game. Key to the game number 3. Eagles defensive backs have an opportunity to shine. All year, Quinyon Mitchell has been able to shine. One of the top overall corners in the game and the best corner in this draft class. The second best corner in this draft class, Cooper DeJean, who's also one of the top corners in the game. And the receiver talent for Carolina is not good, and this is an area that they really have to emphasize, especially if they want to give Bryce Young a year 3 as this team starter. And keep in mind, it's a pretty weak quarterback class here in the 2025 class. You have David Moore, Xavier Legette, the rookie. I like him, but he's a young player. And then you have Adam Thielen, the veteran out of the slot. He's a dependable player for Bryce Young, but the high-level talent really isn't there. They don't have that preeminent wide receiver, nor is the depth that good. And so if the Eagles up front, especially without blitzing, can get pressure on Bryce Young, the back end should be able to have a field day. And for a young quarterback in a raucous Lincoln Financial Field, it could get loud. He could get pressured into making some mistakes. Philadelphia also has to stop the run and force Bryce Young to throw. If the Eagles are able to be successful in stopping the run and Carolina is pigeonholed into having the throw, this is when this Eagles team, which has been excellent as far as generating turnovers during this 8-game winning streak, could really turn the momentum of this game and run away with it. Chuba Hubbard having a really, really good year. 189 carries, 919 yards, 7 touchdowns, along at 38. Keep in mind that Miles Sanders signed with Carolina last year, the former Eagle, after that career year in 2022. There was never any space or running lanes for him. He really struggled to have success running the football. So it's pretty impressive that with some of those offensive line changes, Chuba Hubbard has been able to have a really good year. Sanders, by the way, on IR. He got hurt in that overseas game against the Giants. Lastly, key to the game number 5. Is this a game where the Eagles might have to manage Saquon Barkley a little bit? He's had a fantastic year, but keep in mind what the Eagles have ahead of them. Super Bowl aspirations, trying to get that number 1 seed, trying to keep Saquon Barkley healthy. Philadelphia also has the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up in Week 15. They should be able to handle Carolina here, and I don't know if Saquon Barkley's workload should be that high in this football game. The Panthers also have a bad secondary. Devontae Smith looks as though he's going to be coming back, and the Eagles should be able to have success on the ground without having to give Saquon Barkley 25 to 30 carries. He has 246 carries this year, leads the NFL. Nearly 1,500 yards, leads the NFL. Yards per carry is 6.1, number 1 in the NFL. Yards per game rushing, 124.9 per matchup on average, leads the NFL, and he has 13 total touchdowns. You look at the NFL MVP odds, Saquon, number 2 right now. Josh Allen, minus 210. Saquon Barkley, plus 300. Lamar, after that Eagles loss, dropping to 11-1. Jared Goff, 11-1 as well. And then Patrick Mahomes at plus 2,000. NFL Offensive Player of the Year odds. This has really become a non-quarterback award because non-quarterbacks don't really win MVP anymore. Saquon, minus 5,000. So the large favorite there to win NFL OPOY. Derrick Henry at 4-1. Jamar Chase, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson rounding out that list. But is Kellen Moore going to be able to help himself? He has this uber-talented back. Saquon Barkley has been so special this year. And while the Panthers secondary is not good, they're not good against the run either. 27th in yards per rush at 4.8 per carry. 32nd in rushes per game. So teams are running it the most against Carolina. 34.7 attempts on average per game. And they're dead last in rushing yards per game at 166.8. Again, could be a game, though, where Kenneth Gainwell and Will Shipley get some carries. As for how the Eagles stack up, they are now 7th in points per game, 26.7. 4th in yards per game, just a tick under 378. 9th in yards per play. 9th on third downs. 13th in the red zone. They got to get a little bit better capitalizing with touchdowns in the red area, especially as we approach the playoffs. And in the playoffs, when they take on some really good teams, defensively, number 1 defense during this winning streak. Number 4 now season long in points per game. Number 1 in yards per game. Number 1 in yards per play. Number 2 on third downs. And number 5 in the red zone. As for how Carolina stacks up, it's not pretty, but again, this is year 1 of a rebuild with this new regime. 30th in points per game, 30th in yards per game, 24th in yards per play, 27th on third downs, 17th in the red zone. Then you flip to their defense, 32nd in points per game, 31st in yards per game, 28th in yards per play, 32nd on third downs, and 25th in the red area. So with that, predict the score. Panthers on the road against the Eagles. The numbers, the line favoring the Birds. And I'm favoring the Birds as well. Minus 13 is a big number. I think the Eagles are going to be right on it. The Panthers are giving up about 30 points per ball game. I think the Eagles reach that number. This defense plays very well. Carolina gets that garbage time touchdown to make the scoreboard look closer than the game actually indicated. My final score, 30-17.